This is the Fifth Estate Winning Headlines, your media police post. In this segment, we summarize some of the headlines that you might have missed this morning, but we also take a look at the political pieces that we call cartoons in this country. Today is the 22nd of September 2020, and I am 2J.
I'm Tuam.
And I am GK. In case you missed the headlines, here they are. In the Daily Nation, Maraga reaches for the hammer. In the Standard, Maraga does it again.
Yeah.
And in the Star, how CIA came to lead anti-terrorism war. So the Star has taken a whole other tangent. But let's talk about the dissolution of Parliament. May have it been easier for Uhuru Kenyatta to give Maraga the Mercedes-Benz that he requested. What is happening? I want to ask a question. Cui bono? Who is the beneficiary of Parliament dissolving?
You see, Maraga's advisory on the dissolution of Parliament to Uhuru Kenyatta should not be seen as a legal advisory. It must be seen as a political threat.
Okay.
Because that's exactly what it is. Let me ask, why draft such a reckless advisory 3 months to your retirement? Why draft such an advisory that plunges country into a constitutional crisis during COVID? Why draft such an advisory 23 months before the next general election? Could Maraga be executing a scheme here? And if at all he is executing a scheme, is it his scheme or someone else's scheme?
Yeah.
Who benefits from it? Cui bono? We have a hypothesis. If a citizen of Kenya petitions the court and asks for interpretation of the Maraga ruling, we hypothesize that Maraga's court will rule that the life of Parliament and that of the president coincide. And he will base this ruling on Article 136 that says, an election of the president shall be held A, on the same day as a general election of members of Parliament, being the second Tuesday in August in every 5th year. This simply implies that if Parliament is dissolved and asked to seek a fresh mandate from the people, so will the president be required to do so. And herein lies the mischief. Article 146 of the Constitution 4 says that should anything happen to the president and the deputy president assumes office.
So you're taking us to the deep end.
Oh yes, absolutely.
This is a very extreme scenario.
All right, let's go.
You see, should anything happen to the president and the deputy president assumes office, he will be deemed to have served a full term as president if, at the date on which the person assumed office, more than 2.5 years remain before the date of the next regularly scheduled election. In sum, if William Ruto becomes boss less than 2.5 years before the next general election, he will not have done a term in office.
Yeah.
In other words, Ruto will be president until 2032.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, yes.
This is not what I expected you
Not
to
at
be
all.
saying.
Absolutely. Now, this answers our question. William Ruto...
Your question.
Yes, is our question. 3 in 1. This answers our question. William Ruto will be the beneficiary of Maraga's advisory. Hence the question, is Maraga working alone? If he is, which I think he is not, this is how Maraga and his civil society wakoras must be handled. Parliament and the executive must gang up on Maraga. And they must do this by invoking the doctrine of civil necessity. Civil necessity simply implies that it is necessary to prevent greater harm by ignoring that which is stipulated in mediocre law for the greater good. We can therefore conclude the following. If our hypothesis is true, Kenya will collapse.
Wow.
Our markets will fall, and the 1 trillion shillings we lost in just 3 months in 2017 will look like a Sunday school picnic. Maraga's actions are negligent, rogue, reckless, and suicidal. He is a threat to our national security, and his actions threaten our well-being. He must not be allowed to bully Kenya into submission. But of more importance, his hypothetical owner should be served notice.
Oh, wow.
Powerful words there too,
Very.
What I do want to pivot to, if I may, is that there'll definitely need to be a clever interpretation of shall and the advice. Those elements, because who has supremacy here? Just because the judiciary has asked the executive to do something, must the executive carry it out?
Yeah.
So I want to ask you two, Jay, is Maraga right?
Before I even get to whether Maraga is right or wrong, I think that you've really hit the nail on the head with that question of shall and advise, because the Constitution says that the CJ shall advise the president to dissolve parliament, and the president shall dissolve parliament.
Yes.
And so the question is, as you're saying, what importance or what weight do we give to this word shall? And the first thing that we can point to kind of give us some kind of direction is an advisory from the Supreme Court in 2012. And they quite explicitly say that shall, in their perception, will translate to immediate command only where the task in question is cut and dried.
Yes.
Or if it requires other agencies in order to fulfill that task.
Yes.
So even there, it's still kind of unclear. Is the
Yes.
president dissolving parliament a cut and dry operation, or is it one that requires other agencies to take place, you know, in order for it to happen?
Exactly.
So who knows? And again, is it in the position of the CJ to tell the president of the Republic of Kenya what to do, when to do it, and how to do it?
Absolutely not.
I don't know.
Oh
Absolutely
my goodness.
not.
So is there a problem with these judicial decisions? The way they're told, the timelines, we're so unclear, and it's put the country into sort of this state of confusion. Really, because in 2012 we have the advisory from Githu Muigai, who is the then Attorney General, and he says that the two-third gender rule should have been implemented immediately in the 2013 election.
Absolutely.
Now, what's his name? Willie Mutunga dissented with that radical view, and he said that he said that it should be implemented during the 2013 general election. However, they were then given the 5 years with which to implement, right? And that would have ended in 2015. They still failed to do it. Then there was the Mativo petition of 2016. And then Mativo, in this case, gave Parliament 60 days with which to pass this legislation, and still
failed
nothing.
Again.
So now here we are, and now the
9 years
Justice,
later, almost 10 years later.
It's a very interesting, murky area that we're in. So I have a question. Will there be a general election? Are we sure about that? Is the general election a... So if we dissolve Parliament, because let's be clear about this, there's a feeling that if you dissolve Parliament, then the presidential election must also be held at the same day. Is this clear? Are we confused?
This is actually not clear at all, because when we look at, there is no definition in the Constitution for what the term general election is supposed to be. But if you look at the Constitution, and that's what I did, I looked at all the times in which they mentioned general election, and I compared that against other jurisdictions. And a general election very generally is seen to be that of MPs, senators, the president, governors, and MCAs. That's what it would be in the context of Kenya. And so if we were to have a general election by virtue of this dissolution, everybody is going home. We're starting again from scratch. Which
from the governors to the MCAs?
Every single person. And I think that is unfair, because I think more importantly, the president should not be punished for the inability of Parliament to do their job. He was elected by the people of Kenya. His job is separate from theirs. We have these three branches of government. We have the executive, the judiciary, the legislature. And because one body has failed to do their job does not mean that the executive should have to go home. So I think that until we have clarity, we don't really know where we're going. But that kind of really does go back to the issue that we have in this constitution. Constitutions should not be so rigid that every single thing is defined, is given a timeline, is put within a box. Because constitutions are made to be vague. They're meant to be fluid, in that they are building and growing in the time of the moment, the spirit of the community. And this constitution of ours is far too rigid, and it's left us with uncertainty.
We can, and I like what you said. The word shall and advise. See, when they say the CJ shall tell the president to dissolve Parliament, and the president shall, it connotates a process. All right, there is a trigger, and then there's an execution. As of now, Parliament is not dissolved because the president has not acted on it until such a time where there is a gazettement. Or there's a gazettement of the dissolvement of the dissolution of Parliament, then it's only that time that we can say Parliament has been dissolved. And
Tuam, you're right, therein lies a solution, perhaps. There's still time for Parliament to pass the two-third gender bill.
Absolutely.
And the reason is because nobody's asking you to implement it yet. They're just asking you to pass the bill.
Absolutely.
Implementation can come later and all its problems,
Yes.
but for now, all you're being asked to do is
Absolutely.
pass
Pass a
a bill. So that
bill.
could be the shortcut there. The other thing is I want to pivot back to what 2M said.
Yeah.
When we asked you, or when we asked Cui Bono, who
Yeah.
is benefiting,
Yeah.
you said that the deputy president might be the grandmaster of this whole move.
Oh, yes.
Now, the interesting here is that the timing is impeccable.
Yes.
Because had this been done last year at
Yes.
the 2.5-year mark of the Uhuru presidency into his second term,
Absolutely.
then Uhuru would have had more time added
Yes.
to his presidency.
Absolutely.
But the fact that it's happening now,
Yes.
just under the 2 years,
Yes.
means that we basically he has run out of time. It
Yeah.
shouldn't go to the extreme scenario,
Absolutely.
which is very interesting.
It is very
It's
interesting.
very
If there's one
interesting.
last thing I want to say,
Yeah.
it is to all Kenyans who watch primetime news
Yeah.
with talking heads who have no idea what they're saying,
Oh, yes.
who look at Twitter and follow people who have no idea what they're saying.
Yes.
There's two things I just want to clarify.
Yeah.
The first thing is that Kenyans need to understand how the law operates.
Yeah.
It's not enough for you to go to an Oxford dictionary to get a translation for what a word means. I saw lots of people saying,
Shall.
oh, but if you look at the dictionary, shall says, you know, X,
Immediately.
Y, Z.
Yeah.
No, you don't take shall to a judge and say, but Oxford said
Said
this.
this.
No.
Or
The
Collins.
reason you go to a judge is to understand the spirit of the law,
Yes.
to
Yeah.
get an interpretation from a judge, not an interpretation from a website, you know, that you may not believe.
Yeah.
And the second thing is, we are not having by-elections.
Yes.
This is not a by-election for parliament.
Yes.
Because in order to have a by-election, you have to have a vacation of office.
Yeah.
This is
Absolutely.
not a vacation of office. If you were to go look at Article 103 of the Constitution, it outlines what a vacation of the office of Parliament means. This does not fall under any of those circumstances.
Yeah.
You
So
know,
until people learn to read,
Tujay, your advice should be to Kenyans and to be and also for them to know how to read Maraga. This Maraga man is a dangerous man.
they should
Let
have
me
given
ask
him
you,
the car.
who takes pictures of himself while going to vote, and he is going to adjudicate on a matter 2 weeks later
To
that
nullify the
concerns
election.
itself on the presidential election? It tells you he already had a choice.
No, but
Yeah.
it's his right to vote
I
as
mean,
a Kenyan.
nonetheless, absolutely, it's okay. But look, a person who comes out in public, a Chief Justice of a Republic coming out to say that he should be driving an S500, the same as the Senate, as a Speaker for the Senate or for the National Assembly, tells you that this is a village judge who
Okay,
stays
no, but-
in the
okay,
village
but-
So
okay,
with
but-
a job in
the
Nairobi.
food for thought there, I think, is that the judiciary may have its own selfish political ends. And I think that's what, I think 2M is inviting us to
yeah.
read the context of the most recent moves.
But to play devil's advocate for one last minute,
Please do.
David Maraga is not without a point.
Thank you.
He has made a legally sound argument.
Yes.
Under the Constitution, Parliament should have passed all of those, what do they call them? The consequential,
schedule, yeah.
the consequential legal items, and they failed to do so. So in him, you know, advising the president to dissolve Parliament,
Yeah.
he has done what was required of him
Yeah.
under the Constitution.
That-
Is he emotionally unintelligent?
Yes.
He
By
is.
the
But is
way,
he legally correct?
let me tell you,
Yes.
Rousseau tells us sometimes it is better to be right than to be righteous. See, this man, could he have easily have gone to the Speaker of the National Assembly and just presented a single piece of paper and said, can we just fast track this kind of thing? But because he's a showman and because the judiciary is largely the bastard child of Kenya's democracy, then he chooses to do that. And I'm calling it bastard
Did you
child.
want him to
is
write an
because-
SMS to the president?
Yeah,
saying,
I
"Hey,
mean, he probably even did. But you see, the thing is this. The president has backing. He has the vote of the people. He was elected by the people.
Yes.
And so was Parliament.
Yeah.
You see, there is absolutely no way the judiciary can decide that it will lord over other institutions based on its own power. And that's why I'm calling it the bastard child of Kenya's political
Wow,
democracy.
so the judiciary has usurped the powers of the people.
It has, and is
And
arrogating-
Parliament.
Yes, and
really.
yes, and it's-
With this one move.
and it has the power. It's actually telling the military that we can have an alternative commander-in-chief.
That's
That is
not
what
where I
it's
was
saying.
going. I was just saying, would it be controversial to remove the constitutional interpretation away from the court? Who said that it should stand there?
Maraga and Co should be handled.
So guys, let me end with this, right? The task ahead is going to be challenging for the president. To put it into context, Uhuru is not a man new to challenging times. He has led through multiple sort of issues. We've had terror attacks, we've had a fierce opposition, and now we're leading through a pandemic. But here's some advice from previous presidents. The former American president, Lyndon Johnson, once said, "It's not doing what is right that is hard for a president, it's knowing what is right." right? And JFK also advised, he had wise words during a crisis. He said, the Chinese use 2 brush strokes to write the word crisis.
Yeah.
1 brush stroke stands for danger and the other for opportunity. So in a crisis, be aware of the danger, but recognize the opportunities.
Yeah.
So in this very move that you've been handed, Mr. President, there is opportunity.
Absolutely.
Guys, don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, but also find us on TV. We're on GoTV, Pan Free to Air, and Star Times. Have a very lovely evening.